Hello, thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday, where I get to show you a card that is fast and easy to make. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. Today we'll be using the Warm Welcome stamp set. We're going to be using a couple of stamps out of this, and if you are looking to purchase this stamp set, it is found in the January to April 2023 mini catalog. There are dies that coordinate with this stamp set as well, and we will be using one of those dies. Another item I'm using is the Dandy Designs DSP Designer Series paper. It is found in the SaleABration brochure. It is right here on page 14. This has been a super popular packet of paper to choose as a free gift with a $50 purchase. This is only during SaleABration, which does end at the end of this month, the end of February. I am really in love with the papers in this packet, and we're going to be using some paper from it. I'm starting with a card base in Pale Papaya. The card base measures 5.5 by 8.5 and is scored down the center at 4 1/4 inches, so a very standard card base. Then I have another piece of Pale Papaya that measures 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. This is simply going to be a panel on the front of the card. You could omit this piece if you choose to, if you either want to save the cardstock or if you just don't think that it adds enough to the look of the front of the card, but it does add another dimension. Our white piece is slightly smaller than that, 3 5/8 inches by 4 7/8 inches. This piece is going to get mounted onto that colored panel for just a tiny little accent layer. All right, that's the front of the card. We're going to be doing some stamping on this piece. Then I have a piece of white cardstock that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. This is going to be our inside panel. It'll also have a little bit of stamping on it. And then this piece of our Dandy Designs DSP, which measures 3 7/8 inches by 3 7/8. So this square piece is really going to become kind of the focal point of the card. Now on this piece, we also needed a diagonal fold going corner to corner. So there's a couple of different ways you could do that. You could certainly do it with your Simply Scored, which is usually the way that I choose to do my scoring. But I know that a lot of you have your Stampin' Trimmer, and that has a scoring blade on it as well. And so let me show you how you would do it if you're using your Stampin' Trimmer. All right, so you're going to place the corners onto the little groove where the actual cutting or scoring takes place. So I'm lining this corner right here up in the center of that groove up here, and the opposite corner in the center of the groove down here. Then I'll close this, and being careful not to cut, my black blade is moved out of the way. I'm using the scoring blade to make my score mark. All right, then at that point we are able to get our nice crisp diagonal fold. I'm going to reinforce that with my bone folder here in just a minute. Let me get my Stampin' Trimmer put away. All right, here we go. So I'm going to reinforce that crease and also the crease in my card base. All right, so those items are all ready to go. The one thing that I did ahead of time was I stamped this image from that stamp set onto white cardstock just using the Memento black ink, and I went ahead and used the die and ran it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to cut it out. So that saved a little bit of time just to get started. All right, so beginning with stamping on the inside panel of the card, I'm going to use the stamp that says, "Let's spend time together." And I'm going to ink it up with Calypso Coral and stamp right here, kind of in the top third centered section of that piece. Okay, this piece is ready to get attached to the inside of the card. So I'm going to use my liquid glue. A little goes a long way. and this is going to the inside panel. So as I'm laying it down, I'm just eyeballing the margins all around, top, bottom, side, and side. And once I'm happy with it, I can lay it down and press so that adhesive gets a good hold, like so. Okay, now let's do the stamping for the front panel. Still using Calypso Coral ink. I'm going to stamp hello, kind of over here. And then it's your day. I'm going to stamp it kind of a quirky angle going this way. And then I really liked that little heart that's inside of a circle. So I'm going to do one of those in Fresh Freesia, just like that. Okay. This piece can now get attached to the other Pale Papaya panel. Ooh, that's a lot of P's, tongue twister. Pale Papaya panel that's going to go on the front of the card. I do think it's important for this design of card that you do all of your layering very flat. Don't use any dimensionals, because you'll see when we wrap this piece around, it's going to lay nicer if it's flat. So let me get this piece eyeballed and lined up. All right, so the reason I said that is it would be very nice to put dimensionals on the back of this and have it just popped up a little bit. That would look nice, but because of the treatment that we're going to do with the designer series paper, I don't recommend it. So let's go ahead and put it in place with the liquid glue as well. And I know I don't need to tell you this, but I'll say it anyway. You don't have to stick to the colors I'm using. You don't have to stick to the paper or the stamp set that I'm using. Hopefully this will just inspire you with the design of the card to go ahead and begin creating. Of course, if you want to copy my idea, that is great too. I still haven't used this stamp set. I'm going to bring it back in here. The warm welcome, as much as I expect to. I really like the words, "My door is always open for you." I love the door stamp. The packages are cute. Look at the little arms reaching with the coffee or the tea. Even the shoes. There's a lot that I like about this stamp set, but I just have not gotten to it. And honestly, the holidays can kind of become distracting, because from fall, I start working on lots of Halloween ideas, lots of fall and Thanksgiving ideas. You probably do the same thing. Then we go into Christmas, then we go into Valentine's. But here coming up pretty soon, especially after St. Patrick's Day and probably Easter, the holiday stamping kind of takes a back seat to more generic stamping, birthdays, thank yous, that kind of thing. So I'm sure that I'm going to use that set more often in the coming months. All right, here is our Dandy Designs paper. I really like the stars on that side too. But what I'm going to do is just put my liquid glue on that side of the paper, that corner. Then I'm going to take my card front. See, I have it opened flat. Take my card front and lay it right against that crease that we made, that diagonal crease. And I'm just kind of lining up the two ends. This size of a square is going to make the triangle fit just right and go almost perfectly end to end on your cardstock. All right, so I'm just snugging that up a little bit and giving that a press. So this side is now attached. You see that? And then I'll go ahead and put adhesive on the rest. For me, it was a little bit easier to not have the entire thing all sticky and just work one section at a time. All right, now this can get sealed onto the front. And it's a really attractive little Centerpoint triangle there. I think I'm going to call this card my Centerpoint design. All right, our DSP is making a little center point on the front of our card. There you go. Now all we have to do is decorate it a little bit. So I've got that little piece that I stamped and die cut. I'm going to color it with my Stampin' Blends. So I'm using Calypso Coral Light to do some of the flowers. And so this part is pretty speedy. All right, so I've got a couple of these. And then let's leave a little gap and do this one. All right, again, that's light Calypso Coral. Then I'm going to use Fresh Freesia, and this is dark, to color the remainder of my flowers in the bouquet. Then all we need to do is add a little bit of green for the leaves and stems. So for that, I'm using Granny Apple Green, and I'm using light. And then, okay, there's the leaves, and then I'm going to go ahead and go over this stem right here, this stem, this stem. It's not a lot of space, but it does pop that green in there, so I do like that. And then a couple of these little stems, let's add some green to that. All right, for the shirt sleeve, I'm going to stay in the same color group, so I'm going to use Calypso Coral in the dark and just create a striped sleeve. So I'm going to go every other and leave the other white in between. So I think that that looks good, and it also makes for a speedy card. Okay, there she's got her striped shirt on. And then I felt like the little paper wrap around the flowers did need a little something. So it's kind of funny because I was going to reach for Balmy Blue, and I actually reached for Seaside Spray, which is a retired color. So if you have Seaside Spray, then I encourage you to try it. It's a really great color for this. Otherwise, Balmy Blue would work as well. So what I want to do is just give this a hint of color, almost as if it was clear cellophane wrap. So I just did a little bit there. I'm going to put a little accent and then down here. So I did not choose to color the whole thing in. I wanted it to look like clear wrap, but maybe those little blue highlights. Okay, we can attach this to our card now. And as I'm looking at this, you kind of have to decide if you want the flowers to be upright, then I would attach this right about there. But I'm going to go with her sleeve, and I'm going to line that sleeve edge up to the edge of my card like that. So the flowers are a little bit out of an angle, like she's going to hand them, he or she, I suppose. So that's what I'm going to choose. But centered right here would be beautiful too. Back with our liquid glue. And then, like I said, I'm just going to line up the straight edge of the sleeve with the straight edge of my card. Kind of gives it a different look too. All right, and there we have the front and the inside. This little panel shows here, which is super cute. It gives you that pop of color on the inside, as well as right here. Let me show you a couple other cards that I did, the exact same design and same steps, but I did a St. Patrick's Day theme card. So here's this one, again with the Dandy Designs paper. So I love that green striped paper. This one says sending luck and love and happy St. Patrick's Day. And as a third version, I did an Easter card. Then on this one, the rabbit looks really cute in the middle of the paper, like how we did these, but I backed it up a little bit onto the very point of the paper, and I kind of liked how it looked, so I left it that way. So here's an Easter version, and once again with the same packet of Designer Series paper. So that's our card for today's Simply Saturday episode. I hope you enjoyed our time together. If you have never ordered from me, I encourage you and invite you to do that. If you don't already order through another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, that kind of information is going to be found below this video in the description box. You simply need to click on the words that say see more, and then that box will open up and you'll find all kinds of information that I have for you there. If you have not subscribed yet, I invite you to subscribe and also hit the little bell icon so that you get a notification each time I put up a new video here on my YouTube channel. And as well, in that description box, I will put some links and helpful information for you to find. Thanks for sticking around today. Until next time, happy stamping.